My husband got my best friend pregnant and now is forcing me to raise the child. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. About a year ago, I started getting suspicious that my husband was having an affair. So naturally, I started investigating. I went through his phone when he was asleep, but I didn't find anything. That's when I realized that I needed to start following him. And when I did is when I found out who he was cheating on me with. Turns out, it was my best friend. My best friend had just gotten a divorce with her husband at the time. And she told me that she was trying to have fun with as many men as she possibly could. I just never thought it would occur to her to sleep with my husband. For a full week, I followed my husband and he would see my best friend every single day. Sometimes they would meet up at her house since her husband left her the house. Sometimes they would end up at cheap motels. Of course, I started taking pictures on my iPhone to keep track of everything in case I needed to get a divorce. Come to find out, she was pregnant with twins. Part 2 is my husband got my best friend pregnant and is now forcing me to raise the kids. Disclaimer, is not my story time. After realizing that my husband was cheating on me with my best friend, I confronted him and her together. Pretended I was having a little dinner party and I invited her over. Really did make a nice dinner though. They did not suspect a thing. Comes into the house and gives me a big hug. Right then and there, I hand her my phone so that she could see all of the pictures I took of her and my husband making out outside of motels. Then she looks at my husband and says, "What did you say?" What did you say? He didn't even bother to look me in the face. Handed me back my phone and simply left the house. Then I'm left alone with my husband. Start confronting him and then he tells me that he made a mistake and that he was just bored with our relationship and that he loved me. He manipulated me so much that night that I ended up forgiving him. He promised he would never see my best friend again. And guess what? My bestie kept looking for my husband. One night she came over and told me that she needed to see him. I did not let her into the house and she started yelling. That's when she finally says I'm pregnant with twins. Apparently she had been pregnant for 3 months and didn't tell anybody. And my husband was happy about it. That's when he asked me if I would be willing to raise the kids. Part 3 is up. My husband got my best friend pregnant and is now forcing me to raise the kids. Disclaimer, is not my story time. After she told us that she was 3 months pregnant, my husband was so happy. He told her that he would take care of everything and not to worry about the medical bills. As soon as my best friend left our house, my husband turns to me and says, "You and I are gonna raise those kids without her." That's when I said he was crazy. I was not about to raise the kid that he had with my best friend. That's when he said that if I didn't, he would divorce me and marry my best friend. But I do have to say, I am still madly in love with my husband. We've only been together for 3 years. He was my dream man when we got married and he still kind of is my dream man even though he did cheat on me with my best friend. When he threatened me with that, I said okay. The next 6 months, my best friend moved into our house while she was pregnant. My husband and I served her hand and foot. And in some weird way, my best friend and I became best friends again, even though she was having my husband's babies. Also turns out that she was having twins. During the pregnancy, my husband told her that she could stay to live with us and we could all raise the kids together. To be honest, I didn't mind the idea. My husband's real plan was to try to get rid of her, so that we could move away and she wouldn't be able to find us. But my best friend was looking forward to having her babies. Once she gave birth, my husband decided to bring her back to our house with the babies. Exactly a week later, he kicked her out of our house. And he offered her $50,000 to give the babies to us. And she agreed. So now I'm stuck raising the twins by myself. My husband is always away for work. My best friend never even comes around to look at her kids. My husband told me that he doesn't think we should have our own kids. He also promised he wouldn't cheat again, but I don't know what to believe. What should I do?
Am I wrong for reading my coworker's fan fiction in front of everyone at work? Yeah, oh my god, it's called fan fiction. It's gonna be weird and inappropriate. Why would you do that? I guess the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. I, 27 male, am a general manager at a fast food restaurant. Not gonna say which because I don't want to get in trouble with my assistant manager, Sophie, 23 female. Sophie and I get along pretty well. We joke, fight about a lot of stuff all the time, and like to prank each other a lot. Like prank calls or making the other do fake orders or writing fake surveys about the other. Or splashing soda on one another. We end up working together a lot since we get a bunch of call-outs, especially at night, and Sophie likes to pick up extra hours. We've both climbed up in the couple of years that we've worked there and have a good relationship. When it's dead, Sophie likes to write fanfiction on her phone, which I sometimes tease her about. A while back, I made Sophie read me a line that she was writing and we were making jokes about it. Last week, I suddenly remembered the fanfiction again and decided to try and find it. I remembered a line that she had read to me and was able to search for it online using quotation marks. I'm not going to say which show it's from because I don't want anyone to find out, but it was shocking to read. Pretty much the 2 characters in it worked at a fast food chain and ended up falling in love. It was about you too! It got pretty graphic at some parts too. The main character was essentially a representation of Sophie, and the love interest was basically me. I mean, right now to copying conversations that we've had at work. He even had a wife he was cheating on with to be with her. I'm married, but I would never do such a thing. Anyway, a few nights ago, Sophie and the rest of the team threw a party to celebrate a couple of wins, and of course, Sophie pranked me by shoving a cupcake in my face. So I remembered what I read, and I thought it would be a good prank, so I pulled up the fanfiction on my phone and started to read it. Oh my god, this is really bad. When she realized what I was reading, Sophie's eyes started to tear up, which I was not expecting. The rest of the team was joking around with her, but she ran out of the party. Now she's not showing up to her shifts or answering my calls or texts. It's weird that Sophie's acting like this since she usually loves pranks and stuff, so now I'm wondering if I took it too far. But I also feel like she shouldn't be writing those things about me and her too. Oh my god, you moron. Oh my god. She has a crush on you, you idiot. Obviously. Oh, and the thing is, you read it first and then you still thought it would be a good idea to read it out loud to people. Once you realize that it's about you, she's crushing on you, it's called fan fiction. It's called fiction because she knows it's never gonna happen. Oh my god.
Am I the asshole for reporting my daughter's car missing after her stepbrother took it without permission? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I got my daughter 17 a new car 2 months ago. Her stepbrother 19 has gone crazy about it ever since and has been attempting to drive it, but my daughter made it clear she doesn't want him to. He kept referring to it as our car and would get mad when my daughter decorates it with pink and adds teddy bears and necklaces as decoration. He would also get angry and say that she was ruining their car and embarrassing him in front of his friends, although she never let him get inside of it. I asked my husband to talk to his son, but he said my daughter and I need to chill. Fast forward to this past Friday. My daughter called me while I was at work saying her stepbrother took her car while she was upstairs after he demanded the keys and she refused. I called his phone, but he didn't respond. I then called my husband and told him what happened. I told him that he needed to go bring the car back or I'd have to call the police. He called his son, then called me back and said that his son was just taking it to go to the movies with his friends and will bring it back by 9 p.m. Am I the asshole for reporting my daughter's car missing after her stepbrother took it without permission? Disclaimer, this is not my story. He called his son, then called me back saying his son was just taking it to go to the movies with his friends and will bring it back by 9 p.m. I couldn't wait. I warned him one more time to bring it back, but he stalled. I called the police and reported it stolen. My stepson was picked up from his location and brought into the local police station. We got the car back, but it was a mess. The decorations and toys in it were gone. My daughter didn't stop crying about it. My husband blew up at me on the phone for calling the police on his son and causing him to spend the night there. They both came home the next day and a huge argument started with my husband saying I made a mistake reporting the car missing. He said that I escalated the situation and that I was the one who created it and I should have got his son a similar car or at least told my daughter to share. And otherwise we wouldn't have to be dealing with his son's temper tantrums. The house has been full of tension since then and everyone is just mad at each other. I didn't want to involve the police, but seeing my daughter cry I couldn't take it. Am I the asshole for calling my sister too much for learning ASL because my child is deaf? Disclaimer, this is not my story. My son, 10 months old, is deaf or at least very hard of hearing. We found out some months ago. My wife and I have been talking about future childcare accommodations that might be good for him. There's a daycare nearby ran by a woman who speaks ASL and has an older deaf son. We casually mentioned this to my sister over the summer when she was visiting us, which put some ideas in her head. We were FaceTiming yesterday and she told me she's been taking an ASL course. She works for a college and can get discounted classes, so she does this sometimes. She even showed me her own kids doing some of the things she's learned. They all seem so excited and are having fun with it, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. When her kids left the room, I asked her to stop the class and she pretended to be confused for why. She said she's afraid of not being able to speak to my son when she visits, so this is fine in her opinion. I said she's making a mockery out of disabilities by learning ASL as something fun she can laugh about with her kids who can hear just fine. But it's actually serious to me. She only visits 3 or 4 weeks a year, so who cares if she can't communicate with him? We don't even know if he's going to need ASL to communicate yet, and she's just being way too intense and going too hard about something that doesn't impact her life. I told my wife about it before bed, and my wife told me I'm an asshole and that she's thrilled for anyone to care about our kids' possible future language, especially since it's family. I find this very weird. Neither me or my wife know ASL, but we will learn if we have to learn, but not just for kicks because it's disrespectful and weird and overeager in my opinion.
Am I the asshole for freaking out when my male coworker brought me pads for my period? I work as a waitress in a restaurant with a bunch of people, including the coworker I'm talking about. Let's call him Josh. Now, Josh was always a very sweet guy to me, not gonna lie, although I didn't consider him exactly a friend yet. Just because I'm relatively new to this job, but we do hang out often. Anyways, I'm not sure that what he did was right this time, or maybe I'm overreacting. This is what happened. When my shift was over, he called me to meet him before I got off and left. He told me that he knows that my period is very soon and how physically exhausting it is for me, because he noticed that I get gut-wrenching aches sometimes. And I don't have a boyfriend anymore and I don't get paid enough, so he brought me pads, chocolate, and mac and cheese. I was puzzled because how would he know when my period would come? Turns out he asked my female friend that's also our coworker. She told him my cycle is constant and helped him know when and how physically hard it is on my body. Me and the girl are really close, so I believed him. But I kind of freaked out and put the bag on the table where he can see it and left as quickly as I could. It's been several hours after this and I'm kind of ghosting him at the moment. Did I overreact?